Let's talk about mechanics. No, not those people. Mechanics that keep this little game called Magic the Gathering fresh and exciting. That's why people keep coming back set after set, and believe it or not, the most effective way to fight that ever-looming problem of power creep that most games face. When we look at things like Universes Beyond, some of the new mechanics introduced have been excellent ways to preserve the feel of those properties while really helping drive home a unique identity. Like, shout out to the bending from Avatar for being a perfect example of this. But what truly makes a good mechanic? Well, they are for wildly different limited archetypes. For an example, let's go ahead and use Disappear from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Infusion from Secrets of Strixhaven, and Ferocious for The Hobbit. All three of these focus on a different playstyle, but it's still something that's entirely within the wheelhouse of Golgari. There's sort of a universal appeal to all three of these that works really well when building a deck in those colors. And even sometimes when you're building a commander deck, you might find cards that can combine multiple of these into one singular coherent game plan. On the other hand, there's really mechanics that just sometimes kind of exist. They try to do something fun, and there may be an incidental inclusion of cards from other sets, like my beloved party mechanic originally from Zendikar Rising, or they might get revisited from time to time like allies. Once again, shout out to Avatar. But we're not here to talk about those. We're here to talk about something else. We're here to talk about the mechanics that, well, let's just not say that they're bad. They're not bad. I'm sure there are plenty of good intentions here for the environment that they were built. But anywho, let's talk about Vadrik, Astral Archmage. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to be notified of when there are more videos like this one, or lots of other fun stuff. So, if we're looking at Vadrik, as soon as this human wizard comes out, if it's neither day nor night, it becomes day. Instants and sorcery spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is Vadrik's power. Whenever day becomes night, or night becomes day, put a +1/+1 counter on Vadrik. We want to make him the swollest wizard we can as we power through our day and night cycles. So what even is day and night? Well, what ends up happening is during each untap step, the game state will be checking to see if previous turn's active player didn't cast a spell. If it's day, it becomes night. But if it's night and the previous turn's active player casts 2 or more spells, it becomes day. This sounds pretty ridiculously confusing and hard to keep track of. Well, that's because it is. We're going to be following this the entire time we are playing here. To help us further manipulate the day and night cycle, we have 2 absolute fire cards in the Celestis and into the night. We can get a rudimentary amount of life gain here, get some card draw, and we can control whether it's day or night just a little bit. But this deck isn't about day or night. Heck, it's not even really about Vadrik. This deck is about mechanics. And as I said, a lot of these mechanics don't get enough attention. So we're going to do just that today, and we're going to do it fast. I'm actually one of those individuals that enjoyed Aether Drift. It was wacky, it was racing, it was wacky racing, and it gave us Start Your Engines. You start with 1 speed when you play a Start Your Engines card, and you gain 1 speed on each of your turns when an opponent loses a life. Once you hit 4, max speed comes online. And remember, we gotta go fast. I don't want to take away from the deck too much here, so luckily we have 3 lands that will start our engine. 2 artifacts can also double as mana sources and start us up as well. And we got this cool guy who definitely is not Kane from the Amazing Digital Circus. I'm going a little bit slow. Let's keep that energy going though. And look at energy. You play a card, you get an amount of energy counters. You spend the energy on optional effects. That's cool. We've got 2 lands here that can give us counters and let us spend our counters. We've got another mana rock. We've got a cool power armor. Don't look at the downsides. You can give out a trample counter to something like our commander. We've got some instants. We got this guy who's prowess. He can blow up too. I think that's pretty neat. Now that we're all charged up with energy, I'm tempted to see what other mechanics we can put in. Vadrik looks like somebody you could trust with a cursed artifact. It's probably not even the scariest thing on Innistrad. When the ring tempts you, you get to pick a ring bearer, and then you get the next level of the ring bearer ability. There's a lot of instants and sorceries we can throw out for a tiny bit cheaper thanks to Vadrik's ability. Yet another mana rock, and then hey, look at these 2 delightful fellows. I don't think we've seen them in a little bit. Bilbo, retired burglar, and Gandalf, friend of the Shire. While Gandalf, friend of the Shire, doesn't directly tempt you, he's an excellent source of card draw, and most importantly, he gives your sorcery spells flash. Remember that whole day and night thing? Well, not casting sorceries on your turn, but on your opponent's turn, is an absolutely excellent way to sneak back into night and gain a +1/+1. But since we have Bilbo and Gandalf, I feel it's only proper that we go on an adventure. If you've ever wanted a special coaster for your exile, well, adventure may be right for you. You get a neat sorcery or an instant out of the deal, and then you can cast the other side, typically a creature. It's excellent, and most importantly, we do have a commander who reduces the cost of instants and sorceries, so we might as well put those creatures to use for casting those also. And you thought 1 Bilbo was enough. Well, we haven't even begun to Bilbo, and Glamdring is pretty cool. We got 2 cards that give double strike. We got 2 counter spells. We got another creature with flash. You know, what a fun story we're telling here. And we want this story to be an enduring story. Or in Magic terms, have 3 or more artifacts, legendaries, or saga on the battlefield at any point. And there's only 2 cards in this color identity that has storied, but you know what? I wanted more token. Bomber and Oin. Let's get him in there. This is a fantasy-themed deck now. Like Bilbo went into dungeons and stuff too, right? This mechanic got implemented not once, but twice in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. When you would venture into the dungeon, you'd get to start which dungeon you would choose, and you start at the first room and work your way down each time you venture. But then, in Battle for Baldur's Gate, we got the initiative, which would push you into the Undercity or the dungeon you are currently adventuring in. But there is a slight twist here immediately upon taking the initiative and on each upkeep. You know, well, for those of you that are familiar with Monarch, you get to keep the initiative until you take damage. And once again, we have a land here that will help us venture into the dungeon, and a mix of other cards which will either let us venture or take the initiative, because we shouldn't be the only person having fun with all these mechanics. Speaking of which, there's Monarch. Become the Monarch, get card draw during your end step. Don't get hit, you keep it. We don't have a lot of Monarch pieces in the deck, but we have enough to introduce yet another thing to the table to track. By now, you're probably starting to see a theme with the deck. Other people might be playing Commander, but no, you are ascending that. You are trying to build something great here. You're trying to get 10 or more permanents on the board. It'll look really nice if you can just put Ascend here right next to Storied. While we're decorating the board, let's just throw some fun little stickers on our non-land permanents as well, which gives us a whole separate sticker deck. But we're also going to need some tickets to go with that as well, and some attractions, which give us their own attraction deck. Unfinity was a riot here. For the rules for these 3 mechanics, I would definitely recommend watching a 18-minute video in which Mark Rosewater does describe what exactly is occurring. Please watch that video. This is just to help me with my own suffering. Go watch that video. Playing against this deck is an experience your pod won't soon forget. Okay, I'm not a total monster, I swear. We have a normal mana rock package, we have some decent sources of card draw, some more tax evasion, Fireball is something to do with all the cost reduction. Just in case Vadrik gets fairly strong, we also have a few sources of trample. We can use Vadrik to throw hands in those instances, and oopsies, we got a few potential infinite pieces with Stormkiln Artist, Haze of Rage, Seething Anger, and Searing Touch. And whatever land slots we haven't committed to the bit, we do have a fairly straightforward Is It mana base as well. At the time of recording, this entire list comes out to roughly $50 US. But what is truly the purpose of this deck? Well, one day I was playing a pod and I kept forgetting my triggers. At this point, I can't even remember what kept tripping me up, but it was silly. Let's just assume it was Monarch. And, you know, there's a lot of good ways that we can track this, like using a reminder token, wearing a physical crown, placing a die on top of your library. It just makes me wonder, you know, why isn't there a separate game zone I could use to track these things? But, you know, I realized that if we had a separate game zone for each of these mechanics like this, something like a 3D printed commander tray that some people use to track life, commander damage, and the like, would not go far enough. Tracking everything we just discussed would take a whole dashboard. Sort of looks like this. So I have a challenge. Build this monstrosity, play it, fill every zone you can. Let me know your high score. Links to the deck list in MacLeod are listed in the description below, as well as a link to the 18-minute Mark Rosewater video going over the Unfinity mechanics. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like or subscribe. It really does help me out. What are some mechanics that you appreciate that you feel are underutilized? What things do you think are really weird to fit into a deck, but you definitely want to see being played in Commander? Let me know in the comments below. Take it easy.